Hello! Happy new moon in Aquarius. We still have all kinds of Saturn energy. I think this lunar cycle for the next 30 days is really setting the tone for what we're to experience for this entire year. No need to have any kind of pressure with any kind of transit. There's no need to feel like there's a deadline or there's too much pressure. But I think, in a very, very real way, because this new moon is happening directly with transiting Saturn, because we have so much other Saturn energy, and especially because it's in Aquarius, so it's looking at the long term of our lives, there is a lot of ability during this lunar cycle to form our lives, to be able to put forward action, practical action, when it comes to all this Capricorn energy in a long-term horizon, big vision looking way with all this Aquarius energy. And that does make a difference. We are able to get so much done over the course of this lunar cycle. We are able to, I think, to be able to have the vastest vision possible as well as the most practical progress, we need to be we need to be dreaming big. We need to be bringing in the Neptune and the Jupiter and Pisces energy. And we need to be stretching our faith. We need to be stretching our conscious awareness of our subconscious. We need to be understanding who we are deeply inside more than ever. Because I think that's a key thing with all this Aquarius energy. I think that's where some people might go a little bit off, is they will set long-term visions, but it's not really what they need. It's more so what they want, especially with Venus and Mars being conjunct in Capricorn. There might be more of a focus on the surface reality rather than the really in-depth reality. Not everyone, of course. There's always a spectrum for every energy. And a lot of people are going to feel we're all feeling pressure at this time. And again, pressure is not bad. It just limits. It makes us focus. It makes us, instead of having a million options like we had, especially recently with Mars and Sagittarius, we really only have like one or two max, as like, this is what we're focused on. This is the goal. This is what we're seeking to achieve. This is how we're going to grow. This is what I want my future to be. And at this time now, going into February with this new moon, this new lunar cycle, we've done a lot of the internal reviewing, accounting, understanding with January. Just like we were talking about back in October, where October was with that Mercury retrograde as well as Jupiter and Saturn being retrograde for about half the month. That was a time period of internally figuring out what we were going to do for the next two seasons of November and December. And as well as working with transiting Saturn and Aquarius too. That's been a factor that's been consistently present since the beginning of January. So a lot of what we're focusing on right now has to do with going back to October, has to do with going back to the beginning of 2021 when Jupiter and Saturn both entered into Aquarius. But yeah, so faith is really important. Jupiter is now in Pisces. We are moving forward in that respect on a more spiritual level, on a more emotional level. So the more that we bring that in, I think something else that's really cool, and again, I gotta say, shout out to elsa.com. Elsa is an amazing astrologer. Go check her out if you haven't already. She's really the only astrologer I check out online, to be real. But in one of her newsletters, she said something that brought this to my attention, that transiting Uranus and Taurus is trine all of this Capricorn energy, in particular Mars and Venus in Cap. So that really clicked something into place for me. I realized, oh, right. So we have all this drive, all this Mars and Venus in Capricorn, as well as Mercury being retrograde in Capricorn, but especially the Mars and Venus, because that's the engine. Mercury in Cap is more like the careful navigator, trying to make sure we're going in the right direction. But we have all of this Capricorn energy for this entire lunar cycle for the next 30 days. We'll have Mars actually even a little bit beyond that. And it's being well aspected by transiting Uranus. So what does this mean? It essentially means that all of that progress can break us free. In fact, it's actually pretty easy in a lot of ways to break us free from any kind of rut or obstacles that we're encountering. We're able to find a new way around. So it might be the same old obstacle that we've been experiencing maybe even for the last year and a half. no, basically like the last year or so, especially like later on, I would say in 2021, with Uranus and Saturn being square each other. But all of a sudden, we have the drive to move ourselves around that obstacle, or to the random practical, like looking at the obstacle now of, oh, I can just go over it, or I can go under it, or whatever. So I really urge you to look at I mean, we're all going to be looking at naturally the long term of our lives, the pressure in our lives, and seek a new way to deal with the pressure. Or at least know that if the way that you've been going feels right, you're going to be able to make a lot of progress during this time. Tremendous progress, like life-changing progress. I think really, again, it all comes down to how well do we know ourselves, how well do we know what we need, how well do we know our goals, and how focused are we in sticking to them. I think the focus part has become substantially easier and will be substantially easier for all of February. But the knowing of oneself, are we really creating our ideal future, or is it just what we want? I think that's something that we really need to think about. And also, are we holding ourselves back as per pessimism, as per focusing on the logical side too much? We have so much logical energy, and this lunar cycle is very much about logic, is very much about, okay, what is my plan? I'm taking care of it. Why is it my plan in the first place? Okay, cool. I'm taking care of it. What is my scheduling? What are my steps? Okay, cool. We're moving forward. But all that, again, is completely contingent on what is my plan? Who am I? What do I need? What direction am I going in? What am I seeking to manifest? So if we have that, beautiful. And I think, again, another thing is to balance all of this logic with the faith, with the subjective, to not get too caught up. Even if we have the ideal understanding of ourselves with that self-awareness and the ideal direction, to make sure that we're not getting too caught up in trying to figure out everything, because our mind is a very good tool, but it works like in a box. And faith in general, and especially Jupiter and Neptune being in Pisces, we want to be completely free to appreciate the entire universe and not just get stuck in a box. So what I mean by that is we want to dream big. We want to push the limits of what we feel that we can accomplish in a healthy way. There's obviously, again, we want to balance these things out. We don't want to just be like dreaming and then we're not actually getting anything done, or dreaming and it's more like, again, going back to what we want rather than what we need. So push yourself to like, okay, what would make my life incredibly ideal? What can I possibly imagine for myself? What can I envision? That is what this lunar cycle. I'm not trying to be yet again and yet another astrologer who's like, oh my God, because that happens a lot in this community where we there's a lot of overstatement and trying to like get views and whatever because of epic vast statements. Which sounds nice, but it's not actually like super helpful. But I do want to say that this is a very profound lunar cycle. I'm just looking at it right now, and the new moon being directly conjunct Saturn, it really is a major, I think it's like the beginning of what this entire year is all about. In a lot of ways, it feels like this is actually the new year, whereas January was like we're playing catch up. We have 2 different retrogrades to deal with. A lot of Capricorn, which is more focused on the past and the present. We are now moving into the present and the future. So this lunar cycle, we do need to be patient. This is one last thing that's good to keep in mind. Like I said in the last video, we want to be patient with the first 2 weeks. February is coming off a little bit to a slow start, but by the full moon, when Mercury goes back into Aquarius, we're moving forward pretty handily at that point. And then especially by later February, in that last 2 weeks, we're increasing the momentum quite dramatically. So aim big, dream big, but make it practical. I think that's really the key for what this new moon's about. And as much as that may not be the sexiest message of, keep it practical on work and check in, I think really we all are dealing with pressure. We might as well embrace it. I always think of pressure as like the Atlas Mountains myth in Greek mythology, where Atlas was this titan who was meant to hold up the mountain, hold up the sky rather, hold up the ceiling of the sky, as they said. And I always thought about that in terms of pressure. It's like Atlas is holding that pressure so much. We're all holding Saturn pressure. We have some kind of burden. We have something on our mind. We have something that we're working on, something that we're seeking to grow and develop to handle stronger. And over time, we are growing those muscles as we have that burden. So the burden is really necessary. We need to be holding up the sky. It's part of having, in a way, each one of us is holding up our own sky in life. And as time goes on, as long as we just like seek to have the best stance possible to deal with the pressure, then we'll get through it. We'll handle it. And what I mean by that is the more practically we seek to handle the pressure, and the more directly, and not pretending it doesn't exist, or like slinking away from the challenge. It's like, no, we need to have our stance perfect. We need to be handling it. We need to devote the time and energy to whatever it is that we need to move forward with. It's not going to happen on its own, ever. And we can't be passive. And I think a lot of people who are going to be passive during this time are going to be experiencing that pressure closing in, because at some point you got to get in that stance, but yeah, pressure can close in if you're not holding it, if you're not doing your best there. But I think that's the beautiful thing, is when you do have that stance, as time goes on, again, it becomes easier to work with. We get super buff in handling the pressure, and life gets so much easier. So handle the pressure, go straight for it, look to the future, dream big, but handle right here, right now, and increasingly over the course of February, things will get tremendously better. As always, I'm doing readings, info in the description. I'm moving forward with editing the book. I'm so excited! My goal is by mid-February to release the first 40,000 words of the book. Actually, at 44,000 to those who've pre-ordered. And then after that, I'm just going at it for the remaining 30,000 words. So if you want to pre-order the book, you'll be able to get most of it basically by the middle of this month. So I really recommend doing that. Very excited. Infinite love to you, my friends. Namaste. And the info to pre-order the book is in the description, by the way. I'm gonna do a video on this in the near future. But meditation is really key. I've been meditating every night, and it has been profoundly helpful. Just even like 15-20 minutes, it makes a big difference. And that too, as time goes on, it gets deeper and more calming and centering and fulfilling in a lot of ways too. I think with all of this logical energy, and also to access the best of all that Pisces energy, meditation is key. I'm actually about to jump on and do a live meditation on my YouTube channel. And I'll be doing that a lot more often. So come meditate with me. And again, I'll do that video in the very near future, I think this week, for how to meditate as well. Peace.